Hello everyone. So first of all, I want to apologize that this video will be going out a little bit delayed than usual. I usually try to release on podcast every Tuesday, and this week it was a bit delayed. And hopefully I will make it up by the authenticity of this video. I always get nervous doing these impromptu talks, monologues. Today I want to share something quite personal actually. I've only shared it a couple times and I've gotten pretty emotional every time I've talked about it. So I brought Kleenex with me just in case, I do get emotional and it is something personal I'm sharing with you all because I want this platform to be authentic, to resonate with real people. And I think a good way to do that is to share authentically of our real lives, real issues. And so I went to a support group yesterday for the first time, and one of the things they were talking about was I'm not going to share anything, obviously, identifying or personal about the other members because that's all private. But I went to a support group yesterday, and the theme largely was play and playgrounds and parents and children and play, basically. And I was thinking, and it was my first session, and I was thinking, oh, I don't really have any memories or have anything to share here because I grew up in an orphanage, and we all played together in the orphanage. I didn't really have parents that took me to the playground or to amusement parks or anything like that. But then as time went on and all the other members were sharing their stories of play either with their parents or their observations of other parents playing with children just on the streets in their physical environment, my brain kept churning in the back of my mind just about memories. What memories do I have of my origin family, my biological family, and playing at amusement parks or just them taking me out to play, period. And finally, a memory did come to mind, and it is a memory that I've shared quite a bit, but I just didn't connect it with play. I've always connected it with abandonment, and that some of you who have followed my story a bit might know. Um, and that story is my biological father taking me to an amusement park the day I was abandoned, the day we separated. So that whole day, from this is me thinking over 3 decades later, or around 3 decades later. But my recollection of that day, and over the years I've also written it in similar ways, is that it was a fun day at the amusement park. We tried out all sorts of rides. I was laughing, I was smiling. One of the more vivid memories is me spinning around a boat with my biological father, and I just remember having fun. I just remember laughing, smiling, and having a great time with my father. And and that was also the day I got separated from him. I don't remember the details of how exactly that happened. How I've relayed the story previously is that, he told me he needed to go get something and then just never came back. Maybe he said he was going to get me water or a snack or whatever. I believed him, obviously, and then I waited on the streets. I didn't have a wheelchair at that time and I couldn't walk. I had already contracted polio by age 4. I was anywhere from 4 to 6 because I do have memories of those days on the street, and I do have vague memories of being with my biological family here and there. And so I think I was at least 3 or 4 and no older than 6 or 7. I hesitate to say 7. So I would say no older than 6. But of course, I can't confirm all of this information, being someone who is abandoned, and I don't have any biological family to confirm that information, nor mutual friends or people that knew me at that time. But going back to my story of play and being in the playground, being so carefree and enjoying that moment, I think the reason why it was so emotional for me to describe that moment was because it's one of the very, very few moments, if not the only moment, that I was 100% carefree. I was happy. I was carefree. I did not have a worry in the world. I let my guard down, and then in the blink of an eye, seemingly, I lost my whole family. It was abandonment. Obviously, they didn't die or anything, not that I know of anyway. But to me, to a young child, to a young toddler, that was uh, it was very sad. I was very sad. I think sad is an understatement because I spent the next few years in the orphanage wishing and hoping that my dad would come back, and wishing and hoping I was like the other children who just got lost and their parents truly wanted them and was, in a panic trying to find them and get them back, um, to be a part of the family again. And of course, I can't say of course, but most likely that was not the case with me. I did not get lost. I mean, I couldn't even walk after I was just crawling around on the streets of China, and I couldn't have gone far. My father was with me, so he knew the general vicinity of where he left me. And I spent at least one night on the streets. I was crawling around. I remember at one time I was crawling around trying to find the bathroom because I really needed to use the bathroom, number two. And so that obviously got a little problematic because I was on the street and I couldn't walk. And accessible restroom in the early 1990s was definitely hard to come by, because visiting in 2011, 2012, 2011, 2012, and then 2019, it was still hard to find an accessible restroom. And so you can imagine the situation in the early 1990s. I don't remember the details of how I went to the restroom that day, but it got taken care of somehow. And then I got to crawling on the street, and somehow I ended up at a supermarket, at a grocery store, because my next memory was that I was in a cardboard box sleeping outside of a grocery store, and it was monsoon raining out, and there were passerbys coming and going, and they were dropping food next to me. And as the night progressed, the food pile became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't remember the specifics of all the food items, but one of them was, I've related during previous times, is some cans of oranges, canned oranges that I still really like to this day. So I spent at least one night on the streets because I remember sleeping in that cardboard box, and then either that next morning or uh, the following day, I got driven to an orphanage in a black sedan by a guy, and he put me, I believe, in the back seat. Of course, some of this I've written about it and talked about it so many times in the past that I don't know how much of it is enforced by what I've written and how much of it is what I still remember, if you guys know what I mean. I share this memory because it is, even though it happened a long time ago, this separation from my father, from my biological family, happened around 3 decades ago. I still am surprised by how much it hits me emotionally. When I was relaying it in the support group yesterday, tears just came down uncontrollably. And I think from what I've learned of trauma, trauma sometimes can't tell time and doesn't have age. Healing, takes however much time it needs to heal. And the quicker we get on the road to healing, the faster we can heal. And for a lot of us, for me, for instance, we don't have the people that caused that trauma in our lives anymore, so we can't mend or reconciliate with them there physically. So we have to do the work ourselves, to healing ourselves and to forgiving them. And I often feel like I've forgiven them because all of this happened so long ago. And then I have these emotions rush back to me, and I think, wow, that still hurts. That still hurts a lot. Being lied to, being betrayed, being abandoned, being discarded, all that hurts so much. And even though it only comes in waves, and very few and far between waves now, when the waves do come, it is still very raw. Obviously, immediately after it happened, I was devastated, and I cried, and I was sad all the time, more often than now, because, as I've been saying, 3 decades have elapsed. And so I just thought I'd share my story with you all in short story form, because I'm not the only person, that has experienced abandonment. I'm not the only person that has experienced trauma. I'm not the only person that, had parents that could have done better but didn't. And, I'm not the only one in pain as an adult suffering from childhood trauma. And so I wanted to come on here and share a little bit of myself with you all, for those of you who are also on the road to healing from your trauma and trying to, live this life as best as you can, as best as I can. And so just helping each other. I love the quote by Ram Dass, which I've shared a little bit with people, which is, at the end of the day, we're all just walking each other home. I think Ram Dass said something to that effect. I may have not quoted it precisely. And so we're all just walking each other home, with our pains and bruises and traumas that we've accumulated along the way, and trying to patch each other up and get each other home as comfortably as possible. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in, and apologies again for the delay in getting this episode out, and hopefully I made up for it a little bit. If you like the video, please follow it if you haven't already, and if you've already followed it, feel free to share it with people who you think will benefit from my contents. And thank you so much. We will connect again soon.